Admiral Zexathara's four eyes gleamed with contempt as she gazed at the holographic display, showing the small blue world orbiting an unremarkable yellow star. The bridge of the Dominion flagship world render hummed with activity as her officers prepared for what should be the easiest conquest in their empires. 3,000-year history, Admiral? Her tactical officer chittered through his mandibles. The final fleet positioning is complete. All 847 vessels are in position around the target system. Excellent, Commander Vexhai. Zexathara's tail lashed with anticipation. And our intelligence reports? Confirmed, Admiral. The inhabitants call themselves humans, primitive bipeds who have barely achieved basic spaceflight. No energy shields, no plasma weapons, no quantum drives. They still rely on chemical propulsion and kinetic projectiles. The commander's clicking laughter echoed across the bridge. They're practically still throwing rocks. Zexathara nodded, her satisfaction evident. The Galactic Dominion had conquered 847 worlds, absorbing dozens of species into their empire. Each conquest had been methodical, overwhelming, absolute. This would be no different. Admiral, interrupted Communications Officer Thexamol, we're receiving what appears to be a transmission from the planet's surface. It's primitive, radio waves. Put it through, Zexathara commanded, expecting the usual pleas for mercy or desperate attempts at negotiation. The voice that crackled through the speakers was steady, almost conversational. This is Admiral Sarah Chen of Earth's Combined Fleet. We're aware of your presence in our system. We're transmitting on all frequencies to give you one opportunity to withdraw peacefully. The bridge erupted in clicking, chittering laughter. Zexathara raised a clawed hand for silence. Response? Primitive human, she spoke into the communications array. I am Admiral Zexathara of the Galactic Dominion. Your world is now under our dominion. Surrender immediately and your species will be granted the privilege of servitude. Resist and face extinction. A pause. Then, Admiral Zexathara, this is Admiral Chen. I appreciate the formal introduction. Before we proceed, I have a question. In all your conquests, how many species have you encountered that told stories about us? Zexathara's eyes narrowed. What manner of primitive psychological warfare is this? No warfare, Admiral. Just curiosity. You see, we've been monitoring galactic communications for some time now. We know about the Zephyrians, the Klaatu Collective, the hegemony of worlds, fascinating civilizations. And in nearly every culture we've studied, there are stories, legends, myths about a species from a small blue world. They call us different names. The Voidwalkers, the Iron Children, the Relentless Ones. But they all describe the same thing. Humans who refuse to surrender. The Admiral's tail twitched with annoyance. Superstitious nonsense. You are an unknown species on an unremarkable world, are we? Chen's voice remained maddeningly calm. Tell me, Admiral, how did the Zephyrian Empire fall? Commander Vexhai consulted his databanks. Ancient history, Admiral. They were destroyed by raiders from the void, beings who used impossible tactics and refused to accept defeat, even when facing overwhelming odds. And the Klaatu Collective's great defeat at the Battle of Seven Suns? Legends speak of... Vexhai's mandibles clicked nervously. Iron ships that rammed Klaatu dreadnoughts rather than retreat. The hegemony's collapse. Stories tell of warriors who fought until their last breath, who made every meter of ground cost 1,000 lives. Admiral Zexathara's four eyes widened as realization began to dawn. Impossible. Those are myths, legends, humans are just a fable. Admiral, came Chen's voice, now carrying an edge of steel. We've been fighting among ourselves for millennia, perfecting the art of war on a world that breeds survivors. We've turned warfare into science, strategy into art, and stubbornness into religion. We don't have your energy shields because we never learned to hide. We don't have plasma weapons because we learned to make every shot count. We don't have quantum drives because we learned to be exactly where we need to be. The tactical displays around the bridge began lighting up with new contacts. Hundreds of them, thousands, Admiral. Vexhai's voice cracked with panic. New contacts appearing throughout the system. They're everywhere, behind the gas giants in the asteroid fields hidden in the solar radiation streams. Admiral Chen's voice continued, steady and implacable. The thing about being considered a myth, Admiral, is that people stop looking for you. They stop preparing for you. They start believing their own propaganda about primitive chemical rockets and kinetic weapons. The first human ships decloaked near the Dominion fleet's flanks. They were smaller than expected, scarred and functional rather than elegant. But they moved with a precision that spoke of countless hours of drill, countless battles fought and won through sheer bloody-minded determination. You see, Admiral Zexathara, Chen continued as the first human missiles began finding their targets with devastating accuracy, we learned something from studying your previous conquests. Every species you've defeated tried to fight you the way you fight. Energy against energy, technology against technology, formation against formation. Dominion ships began exploding as human vessels performed maneuvers that should have been impossible, ramming attacks, point-blank torpedo runs, fighters that treated capital ships like obstacles to dance around rather than threats to avoid. We decided to fight you the way we fight. Welcome to Earth, Admiral. Population, 7 billion apex predators who've been dreaming of this day since we first looked up at the stars. Admiral, Zexathara watched in growing horror as her overwhelming fleet began to crumble under the assault of an enemy that fought like no civilized species should. These humans didn't retreat when facing impossible odds. They advanced. They didn't surrender when their ships were crippled. They used them as weapons. They didn't beg for mercy when cornered. They laughed and charged. As the world render shuddered under human fire, Admiral Zexathara finally understood why humans existed in the legends of every species they'd conquered. Not as victims, but as the nightmare that waited in the dark between stars. The fable that turned out to be humanity's greatest weapon had never been their absence from galactic civilization. It had been their patience,